2018, and I was lucky granted the scholarship. So in February 2010, when I'm going to, I was picked from Cape Town International Airport by a young colored man who was playing a very time black-eyed feeling. And night, but the literature student in me changed the dose. I've got a feeling that this journey is going to be and support of Professor Musida at the Department of Literature and to Makerere University. So that has turned me into what I am, and I hope that 15 years from now, 20 years from now, the graduate students seated in this hall say how his or her supervisor, how the college principal, how the coordinator of this program make contribution to whatever institution, but generally to humanity. So, you see, no claps anywhere. I was right to ask for them in advance. On that note, allow me to invite Professor Musida to give us her keynote. As she comes, let's recognize the presence of Professor Edward De Wamala and Dr. Gavas to Save, all from the Department of Philosophy, who have been really great supporters of PhD training in the college. Thank you very much.
Sana Mwenyekiti. And for those who do not know, Professor Nabutanyi, Swahili speakers, I understand is not with us anymore. And Tanzania and South Africa, and we marked our 10th year last year. So I'm starting with that to say it's in the spirit of the building of networks that actually take intergenerational scholarly work forward. So asante sana mwenyekiti. His presence soon, the Vice Chancellor, Makerere University, the Deputy Vice Chancellor, Academic Affairs, Professor Buyenza Mukadasi, the Symposium convener in Mwenyekiti, and comrade in many, Professor Edgar Nabutanyi, my compatriot and brother from Kenyatta University, behind the graduate writing workshop we had yesterday, including Sechito, Dr. Isaac Tibasim, Dr. Amon Ashabang, that has made this gathering possible from behind, including Esther Nam. I always sing this anthem with such joy, because partly anthem, because I might land in. I really take great pride in the quality of scholarly work and graduate student training that is happening at Makerere University. Because I'm focus on, and people in our discipline, because I'm focus on, and people in our discipline, you cannot be a scholar of African and Afro-diasporic literature and not University as the cradle to the discipline. And when David Cook and Rubadi, the foundations of my interest in literary studies. And so when I started studying African, David Cook and Rubadi, the foundations of my interest in literary studies. And so when I started studying African literature as a young student in Kenya, the one place that each of these writers kept being referred back to was Makerere University. So all the while, so that's my connection to Makerere. So it's in this spirit that I really take Makerere. So it's in this spirit that I really take pride in the work that is happening here, but also because I'm very interested in the possibility of building a Pan-African scholarly community that can hold its own on the global plane, And to my mind, then, Makerere University and CHUSS specifically is at the forefront of the place of the global knowledge production landscape. So I consider today's symposium to be an important building block towards that mission, and I'm greatly honored to have been invited to contribute in a small way through this morning's keynote address in building, which is focusing on building and nourishing support. I must just put my timer on. Professor Ngugi wa Thiong'o, who recently transitioned to the ancestral realm. To live, read, and think in the company university alumni such as Ngugi wa Thiong'o, and it's in that spirit that I would like to share my thoughts today. So I'll start with a disclaimer. From a whole range of scholarly work on the university in Africa, including the work by people like Daniel Sifuna, the work by people like Makerere's own Mahmoud Mamdani and others, it's a hybrid which nonetheless operates as if it was functioning in conventional institutional contexts, which were imagined when the idea of the university and the PhD was launched in Africa. Of the lives of students, academics, and all the stakeholders that make up the university in any African institution. And I would like to place this tension on the table. That's the tension between the normative logics and the realities of the university as an institution are very two different yet related trajectories. And for me then, the irony is that for PhD graduates, we are expected to operate as dual citizens of these two worlds, and this is the normative idea of what graduate and the realities of the spaces within which we operate. So that's what I mean by operating as dual citizens of these two worlds and subject to the rules and obligations and responsibilities, but also on a good day to the rewards of both forms of citizenship. So I'm going to be structuring my remarks around a cluster of ideas that I find generative to think about, and then we can have a conversation. So for me, this is less of a keynote address and more of a set of talking points and thinking points that we can explore further in the next 2 days as we work on this. The other thing that I want to acknowledge, is my voice not? Okay, I hope that is better for the people at the back. Okay. So I'd like to acknowledge is that at any given point in time, we always occupy multiple concentric roles, which are variously maximized or minimized depending on the context that we find ourselves in. These two segments are not necessarily separate as they may appear, that at any given time we are wearing multiple hats. It's just a question of, if you think about multiple windows on a computer, it's a question of which window have we maximized and which one have we minimized. So a lot of the time, actually, these two segments between our personal lives and our professional lives often weave into each other, and they ultimately shape being here as opposed to success. because it seems to me that I prefer not to speak in the grammar of success, because it seems to me that the category success has been hijacked by neoliberal logics that frame every facet of our lives. And increasingly then, success is understood as the capacity to accumulate as much wealth as we can and to consume or buy as many items and experiences as we can, preferably exclusive items and experiences which are not available to other people. So I'm not persuaded by that approach to life, the approach of success as defined by consumption and accumulation. I'm more interested in a working definition of a good life. And the working definition I'm thinking with here is a life that centers well-being and the conditions that allow opportunity to explore, develop, and share whatever gifts we brought with us to this existence, and in the process to learn and grow and have generative experiences. So my comments today then are proceeding from the assumption that we all aspire to a good life after the PhD, and the good life not being about lots of money, but being about that capacity to operate at an optimum level in the different forms of well-being, in which then this is a life that is it's operating within a livable equilibrium between our private lives and our professional lives, and a life in which we can access the physical, psychosocial, financial, and spiritual well-being, and that we can make a meaningful contribution to life and to the communities around us, but also a life in which we are challenged to become the best versions of ourselves in all the spheres. So how do we secure this? One important ingredient in securing this, at least on the professional, be careful not to plateau. And we know when you plateau, you're like this. You just, sometimes we call it being on autopilot. It's the most dangerous thing that they can easily recognize, your colleagues and your peers easily recognize that when you lack hunger, you lack that hunger, that ambition, that drive for the next thing. It's very easy for people to pick up on that. And within the academy, you are as good as your last of work. And so when the community around you recognizes that this is somebody who has plateaued, it's like being on a highway, people are driving through and you are stuck. You're that vehicle that is sitting in the middle of the lane. With luck, somebody will come and get you off the highway. But otherwise, a lot of the time, we know what happens. The rest of the traffic will do this around you because people have places to go. If you look like you've arrived, then that's it. And that's the danger of not having a growth-oriented mindset. The second thing about these networks is working at it. That like any other relationship, professional relationships take work. They don't grow randomly like weeds. So the initial encounters with people that we end up working with on a basis or a goal-oriented basis, those initial encounters might be serendipitous, they might be unplanned, but after that, they require cultivation. They require maintenance. They require investment, they require care. In the same way that we are intentional about our personal relationships and friendships, healthy professional networks and relationships and communities require intentional cultivation. And that's something many of us forget. Once you have a job or a position somewhere, you think you need to work on your personal relationships, but the professional relationships, I've got the job, I've got the salary, again, I plateau. But relationships, generative relationships, it's like if you abandon your crops to nature, eventually they'll also abandon you. So I need us to think about these networks in terms of cultivation, that you need to be intentional about cultivating these relationships. They need care, they need to be watered with attention, they need to be nourished with generative encounters that produce growth, not decay. And similar to plants then, these relationships, if they are not watered and nourished and treated with care, they become unproductive, they wither, and they eventually die off. So how do we do this? Part of how we do that cultivation is first of all by working on ourselves. And again, we know from common wisdom that healthy and sustainable long-term relationships require that all the members or partners in that relationship grow with the times and with each other and constantly work on themselves rather than letting themselves go. And that's the same approach I would suggest, that the same applies to professional networks after the PhD, that the PhD is that foundational qualification that equips us with the skills to operate in the world, the academy, and other knowledge-oriented terrains like think tanks, policy, environments, etc. But it's not a destination. It's the beginning of an adult professional life, and it still requires that regular maintenance and growth-oriented mindset. So what does working on yourself from a professional level look like for academics? It looks like having a spirit of deep self-reflexivity about our strengths and our challenges in the different facets of our lives. It looks like being constantly engaged with how best to pursue that well-rounded well-being that I talked about earlier. It looks like that growth-oriented spirit that refuses to settle and meets every day with a degree of curiosity about what we can learn about ourselves, about our work, and about the communities that we are part of. It means constantly taking steps to grow in our fields by reading regularly, by staying abreast of developments in our fields. It means being plugged into the field's debates and nurturing a passion and commitment to the areas of our research interest. Because again, that also does not just stay put simply because 3 years ago you were interested in this topic. If you don't nurture that curiosity, it dies out like any other spark. So how does this then relate to building and nurturing sustainable networks? Generally, people gravitate towards people whose spirit radiates dynamism and curiosity and open-mindedness and a willingness to learn. And those are important ingredients, especially in knowledge production and in the academy broadly. So networks are only as strong as their members. And you need to raise yourself to be a valuable member of whichever network you find yourselves in. Otherwise, you become a taker, you become a sponge that simply absorbs from the network you find yourself in. And soon enough, people realize that actually this is not a reciprocal dynamic. This is somebody who's here to sponge up the energy, the creativity, the innovativeness that the community has, but you're not feeding back into it. And very few people are interested in pouring into people that do not pour back. So the key word here being reciprocity. But if you constantly work on yourself, if you constantly stay interested, stay curious, and allow your interests to evolve as well, because what you're interested in now might be different from what you're interested in 5-10 years after the PhD. But the key thing is that sense of curiosity. What am I drawn to? What am I curious about? What's happening in this topic that I'm interested in? How do I contribute? Because that's what then, in a way, it magnetizes a community around you that is reciprocal, that's able to keep each other's fire going. And part of that working on yourself then is what I'm calling staying fit, right? And particularly staying intellectually fit. So to be able to work on yourself as an academic or a knowledge worker, you need to remain intellectually fit in the same way that we are constantly encouraged to maintain our physical fitness through some form of physical exercise, and to maintain our spiritual fitness through some form of spiritual practice, whether that is through prayer, whatever our religious affiliations are, through fellowship, through meditation, through consuming spiritual content, whatever that is our spiritual gym, basically. So if we do this for our physical well-being, and we tend to be encouraged to do that by health professionals, and we do this for our spiritual fitness, whatever our spiritual affiliation is, then in a similar vein, we need to maintain our intellectual fitness. And we do this by developing a routine to feed our minds over and above our obligatory responsibilities. And of course, any academic would tell you that time is such a rare commodity that we are so inundated with teaching, with supervision, with admin, that sometimes it's very easy to let go of yourself. The same way sometimes, even for physical fitness, we struggle to find that time to take a little walk, or to go to the gym, or to sometimes even to go to church. We struggle to find the time to do that. So you need to be intentional about developing a routine to feed your mind over and above your teaching and research and administrative commitments, right? And how do we do this? We do this by regularly reading around our fields. We do this by, and the fortunate thing, like I said yesterday, is that you are entering the academy at a time when you've got all these wonderful technological developments, which actually ease life in certain ways for you. You're able to set up Google Alerts about scholarship. I did my undergraduate when we did not have like catalogs where you could type in to search for a book in the library. So we used index cards. I don't know how many, I know many students are not old enough to even know what an index card is, to use an index card to find a book on the shelves. But you are entering the academy, or for those of you who are already in the academy, you're operating in a space where you can set up a Google Alert on the major scholars in your field who are doing work that you're interested in. And Google will alert you, oh wait, Prof. DPO has published this article. You don't have to go out of your way. You will receive it in your inbox that here is the latest work on your topic. So you stay on top of your field by setting up that Google Alert on your topics and scholars that you're interested in following, by regularly browsing the tables of contents for flagship journals in your field at least once a month. And you can even diarize that the last Friday of the month, I'll block off that afternoon, and I'm using that afternoon to simply look through the major journals in my field and just browse the table of contents. What are people publishing about? What are they writing about? What is the cutting edge conversation in my particular subfield? Literally one afternoon, once a month, you will be on top of what is happening in your area. The same thing with checking out the major academic publishers in your field. What are they publishing? Who are the major, who are the major academic publishers in your field? And when you do this, you need to, the same with the journals, you need to be intentional about, because remember, we are doing this from our location as Africa-based scholars. And we're operating in a very unequal environment where, courtesy of all sorts of financial and political inequalities, a lot of the infrastructures of publication, as we talked about yesterday, are based in the global north. So part of our job is also, even as we prepare ourselves as the future academics to tilt that balance, you cannot do that if you only channel your eyes onto the global north. So you need to look two ways. You need to keep your eye on the major publishing stables in the global north, but also the publishing stables, the journals, the university presses in the global south. And in Africa specifically, what are they bringing out? As a Makerere University student, do you know what are the recent books that are coming out of Makerere University Press? And again, an afternoon, once a month, when you go on to you have a list of the major academic presses or scholarly presses, you pop in there, look at what are they publishing, what's out there. Because once you're aware of it, next time you're working on that topic, you know, oh, Makerere University brought out this book. I need to read that book for the topic that I'm working on. You do this by attending book launches. And increasingly, one of the sort of ambiguously useful things about the pandemic is that we have an infrastructure for virtual participation. You can be seated here and attend a virtual book launch at the University of Zambia. So having that awareness, and that's an hour of your time, an hour, 2 hours of your time, but there is an opportunity to be plugged into the debates in your field. So attend book launches, especially when they're virtual. Attend seminars, especially when they're virtual. And if they're physically on campus, be intentional about attending these events. Be intentional about reading book reviews in your field so that you know this is what's happening. This is part of how we keep fit. Follow relevant social media accounts. Because this is, again, you might as well mobilize social media to our advantage. And there's some really useful social media accounts which publicize important publications, important books, fellowship opportunities, funding opportunities. Being intentional about keeping an eye on those will keep you intellectually fit. And therefore, then you are a valuable person to be part of a community. Attending conferences and presenting your work, which already you've ticked that, and I hope that this will not be a once-off, that this will be a habit that actually you sustain and keep on at, and eventually then pursuing publishing opportunities. So what intellectual fitness requires then is the spirit of developing the necessary skills for the world that we live in. And these skills include analytical thinking, resilience, creative thinking, technological literacy, because you cannot get away with my level of technological literacy. Like I said, I am from the generation of index cards. I can be forgiven for certain things, you cannot. So you need to develop that technological literacy. You need to develop a spirit of lifelong learning. You need to develop emotional intelligence, because in the work environment, you will deal with all kinds of people. You need to know how to navigate those different energies. You need to develop a sense of initiative. You need to have strong interpersonal skills. Ultimately, the point is to never let yourself go, to keep working on your professional and intellectual fitness. And then there's also the question of living and working with integrity. And I'm a big believer in integrity. So what do we mean by integrity? According to my dictionary, integrity is the quality of being honest and having strong moral principles. I often tell my students that by the time we get the PhD, everyone has proven that they are brilliant. In fact, it's not even the PhD. After the master's, we are all clever. It's not about who is number one, who is top of the class. Yeah, it's nice to have the distinction, etc., and we should aspire to that. But there's a sense in which by the time you're in a PhD program, we can take it for granted that you are smart. After that, it is less about how smart you are and more about what kind of person are you? Are you a person of integrity? Can you be trusted to deliver quality work without cutting corners? Can you work with other people honestly and fairly? Can you be trusted with power? Are you an accountable person? Can you acknowledge mistakes? Because they will happen. We all make mistakes, myself included. Are you able to acknowledge and to be self-reflexive and to commit to doing better next time? Or is your default mode defensiveness when errors happen? And I know the political environments that we live in on the continent have made us sound very old-fashioned when we talk about integrity, because all around us we see every day that actually lack of integrity seems to be rewarded, that the default mode is to operate without integrity. That seems to be the default. So it's very hard to walk with integrity in the world that we live in, and especially with the dynamics that are at play in our spaces. But integrity is like gold for the financially inclined people. You would know that in unstable financial markets, gold does very well. And right now, gold, apparently according to the stock market people, gold is doing very well. So integrity is like gold, because the market value of integrity will never depreciate. Or as my young people say, because they talk about the face card that never declines. I'm sure some of you know that saying. So integrity is that card that never declines. It will never depreciate, despite the fact that we are operating in a world that seems to make it look old-fashioned and actually disadvantageous to operate with integrity. But moving with integrity still counts, and it's a currency that you can spend anywhere you find yourself in. And related to integrity then is the question of give and take, that spirit of reciprocity, that there's no such thing as complete powerlessness. I know when we think about power and resources, we think those people at the top, those people, those senior management people, those senior political people, those senior people in the corporate world are the ones that have power. They're the ones that have resources. Those supervisors, those senior academics are the ones that have power. I'm just a student. I have no power, I have no resource. No, it's not true. That there's always something we can give. There's always someone whose life we can impact. It doesn't matter where you are. even those street families, who are in many African cities, even among them, there is a recognition that there are power dynamics. A person in that street family who is able to unlock this. So if we proceed like that, then we recognize that sustainable relationships and sustainable intellectual networks require a fair-minded ability to work with others and to give when we are in a position to give, so that when we take, it is a natural balance and nobody feels taken advantage of. Ultimately, the academy runs on lots of alcohol, lots of goodwill, and lots of reciprocity. And many of the processes that keep the academy alive, such as the examining of dissertations, peer reviewing, we talked about peer review mechanisms yesterday, recommendation letters for fellowship applications, assessing fellowship applications, assessing applications for scholarships, etc. All of these processes, nominating people, all of these are dependent on informal networks of exchange where we give and receive reciprocally, right? So of course there are the formal policies. In any journal, there are the formal policies of this, how article operates. But ultimately, that entire system is dependent on goodwill, on a reciprocal dynamic. Approach my colleague and say, look, Dr. Wekesa, can you peer article for me? Next time he has a student who's about to submit their work, Grace, can you examine my student's work for me? It's that I mean by that give and take, that it runs on a lot of goodwill and a lot of reciprocity. A lot of what keeps these spaces and the work that we do alive, it's not financial exchange. It's goodwill, reciprocal exchange of goodwill. So we need to be able to find that balance between giving and burning ourselves out, because that's the other thing you need to be alert to be careful not to give so much to the point where you have nothing more to give. But on the flip side, to be careful about being that person who just takes, that person who approaches other people to do these favors and that favor, examine for me this, write for me that letter, review for me this, do this for me, but you never are available to do that for other people. And eventually, the academy is a very small pond, by the way. People pick up on how you're moving, as the young people say. So the idea is to find that balance between giving and taking, and maintaining that sense of reciprocity. But when we give, okay, so my note says that's my 30-minute mark, so I'll be wrapping up soon. So when we give, we need to not look at it transactionally. It's not a transactional relationship. So that's why I'm going with the word reciprocity rather than transaction. It's not transactional. If you look at it transactionally, then it contaminates the relationship. That if I'm aware that Prof. Nabutani is looking at me like, yeah, I've peer-reviewed 2 articles for Grace, therefore she owes me 2 students to examine for me, it contaminates the relationship. It's not like that. It is organic and it's still grounded in that ethos of integrity. And it's not transactional. We're not keeping count of, I did this for you, no. But we're maintaining that healthy ecosystem where we can reach out to each other, where we can lean on each other. Can you read my draft paper for me? Can you look at this lecture that I'm going to be presenting? Can you read it for me and give me feedback on it? Do you think this article would sit in that journal? That's the kind of thing that I'm talking about. So when we commit to giving, let's not operate with a calculator. Karma does not like calculating. That whole calculation mode does not work for generating good karma and good energies around your community. So when you commit to giving, you do it with one heart. You write that recommendation letter as thoughtfully as you would like other people to write recommendation letters for you. Because trust me, you're never too old or too senior to need a recommendation letter. As I say, at my big age, I am still asking people for recommendation letters. In the same way my students and my mentees ask me for one. So when we do it, we do that with that spirit of I am doing it to the best of my ability and as honestly as I can. when you're peer reviewing that article, when you're examining that dissertation, no matter how weak you consider it to be, you do it with a keen eye on the fact somebody spent time working on it. And that time is life. So even if you think this student's work is very weak, and you obviously do not lie and say, yeah, it's great, it deserves a distinction. That's just nonsense. You can say this work is weak without trashing the student and your colleague who supervised this work. That's part of what I mean by integrity and fair-mindedness and respect. We can treat each other respectfully. We can expect rigor from each other, but do that with respect. So, and with that, and for me, the way to do it is to remember a segment of somebody's life went into this. It may not be a very good product, but time is life. Therefore, if somebody spent time working on this, then a segment of their life is here. We treat it with respect, but we still tell the truth that this is not good enough if it's not good enough. So, and that balance is really important, that spirit of being able to be critical and rigorous, but kind. We do not have to be dismissive to get our points across, because at the same time, we never know the person whose work we're engaging with was going through when they were preparing this work. And if we are operating from a growth-oriented and developmental spirit, then it's about what can I tell this student, or what can I tell this colleague that would help them improve on this work? Currently is not ready for publication, but what can they do about it? I'd like to close by talking about initiative. That the invitation here is also to take initiatives. That it's easy to think about networks as something that exists out there that we want to be part of. And there are many wonderful networks, and as an outsider, you look at that community of scholars, you look at those colleagues, how supportive they are towards each other, how they share information with each other, opportunities with each other, how they try to support each other's initiatives, and we think, yeah, I want to be part of that, and that's great. We can aspire to be part of what looks like it can raise us to another level. But networks emerge and grow because individuals step up and start something and invite others to collaborate. So even as we seek to join existing associations, networks, and communities, we also need to be alert to the opportunities around us to start those networks ourselves. And it doesn't have to be massive or even formal in any major way. You can start with a reading group with your peers. And again, we're never too old to be part of networks. Our group that I mentioned earlier, we have a reading group which we started just lightly to keep ourselves educated. As such a thing as secondary illiteracy. I call it secondary literacy. When you are reading and you're teaching, but you're not reading beyond your particular focus. You're not reading beyond what you teach and what you research on. So we started this reading group, a group of us, including Prof. Nabutani, Prof. Chiguli, and others, right across East and Southern Africa, and some members are sitting in the UK, and once a month we get together virtually, we circulate an article, and we read and think together on it. And we are at different levels, but there's no level, nobody who's too senior or too junior, and we have some of the PhD students in the room are members of this reading group. They join us, we read together, we think together. That's an initiative. The same thing with the Mashariki Association that I mentioned earlier, which is turning 11 years, and we're meeting at the University of Dar es Salaam in August. Again, we started small, and we're seeing the fruits of that association and how it's nourished. It's keeping us thinking. It's keeping us feeling we're not alone. We're working together as a community. So start with an informal support network within your community, with colleagues. Start that network, even 2-3 people, where you read each other's draft work. Have a standing arrangement to meet once a month to check in on each other's progress, storm on any challenges, but also to celebrate any wins. Just once a month, we get together, whether it's in person or online, share what's happening, share opportunities, celebrate any good news. Oh, my chapter was approved, or my proposal has been approved, or I have submitted, because that's how these communities go. And I know that these look like small networks compared to the massive associations all around us, but a lot of the associations, that are shaping disciplines. Our started off very small with a group of people who decided, let me do something, let me take initiative. So I know my talk is titled Life After the PhD, but I want to close by saying that the suggestions that I've tabled here are not time-specific. And I'm hoping that there's one or two suggestions that resonate with you that actually you're already doing, in which case, well done, keep it, or that you're not doing at the moment, but you're curious to explore it in the immediate context with your peers and to see what you can shape. Like I said yesterday, in the academy, the moment we step into the academy, we are already doing redundancy planning. So when I teach my first-year students, I tell them, this is redundancy planning, this is succession planning underway. I am training you to take over from me. And I'm training you, my ultimate pleasure would be if you are better than me. Because then I can point and say, that is the next generation, and the future is in hand. So in the spirit of that redundancy planning, I'm hoping that you're grabbing every opportunity and resource that's to you, and you are determined to not only take that baton when we hand it over to you, but to build an even better future for all of us in that spirit of intergenerational planning and intergenerational continuity, really, and laying those foundations that Prof. Nabutani opened with earlier when he shared the story about Prof. DiPio inviting him to receive Prof. from the airport. So I'm hoping that one or two things resonate and that you will start building those networks now. You will not wait for the PhD. Thank you again for having me. It's always wonderful to be back at home.
Join me in giving Professor Musila a thunderous allow me appreciate and acknowledge the presence of Deputy Vice Chancellor Academic Affairs, my big brother, Professor Buyinza. Thanks for joining us. Professor Musila is generous, but it is me who is not feeling generous this morning. So we shall not have a Q&A, but as I said, she's very generous during the lunch break and the tea breaks. If you have any question, if you want any clarification, just reach out, introduce yourself, and ask that question or share that insight. What I take from her keynote is that grab those opportunities, grab the opportunity of resources and utilize them, make good of them, and build that community. I think we had, it just occurred to me when she dedicated her speech today to Professor Ngugi that we had missed a step. You know, in the spirit of integrity, I would like us to stand and observe a minute of silence. Maybe, where is Professor Chiguli? Yeah, I'm asking you to lead this and to say a word or two about Professor Ngugi and his connection with Makerere University. And after that, I will invite my big sister to come and make her remarks and invite my big brother. Can you hear? Can you see us? Big this, big that.
Let's observe a moment of silence first. Professor Ngugi's soul rest in peace. It's hard to say anything about Professor Ngugi because when he was alive, he did everything. And he also made sure that he didn't only say in the typical characteristic way of our orature. He was very deliberate about saying orature and not orature, because he was conscious that the word orature that had been carried outside this place, Makerere, to the world, and the world used it, was not well acknowledged here. When he came in 2013, he insisted that that word that had been carefully thought out by Professor Pio Zirimu and his student, Mwalimu Austin Bukenya, should be patented. He kept saying it even in his emails up to when we last communicated in January this year. It's up to us to say and to see how to do that. But Professor Ngugi wa Thiong'o was not only a global scholar, he was a Makerere scholar. He was, every time he spoke, as I said, every time he practiced orature, and every time he wrote down, he made sure that he acknowledged where he came from. He was a man very conscious of his roots. He was a man very conscious of his intellectual roots. And he put a lot of store and a lot of love, mark my words, love, L-O-V-E, in case I mispronounce it. He put a lot of love on having been nurtured, having been born as a writer here at Makerere. And he made sure he wrote it down. Those of you who are aware, you are aware that Professor Ngugi wa Thiong'o has a memoir dedicated to Makerere University. And he actually has a subtitle. It is A Writer's Awakening. The birth of a dream weaver, a writer's awakening. And it is his memories of Makerere that he puts in a whole book. I want to challenge and ask you, how many scholars of global stature have done that for their alma mater? I'll stop at that. May he so ever thrive, and may we proudly always stand and say, we were part and parcel, and we are still part of a great legacy of Ngugi wa Thiong'o, the writer and public intellectual.
Wow, wow, wow. Yes, we are still part of the great legacy of Professor Ngugi. This is Makerere University main hall, but we are glad that today it's occupied by the Mine of Excellent Minds from the College of Humanities and Social Sciences. Professor Winza Mukadas, we are happy to receive you, but we have a catchy word from the College of Humanities and Social Sciences. Their slogan is the Mine of Excellent Minds. And we are glad that you've joined that audience. So the College of Humanities and Social Sciences has schools, the School of Languages, Literature and Communication, which has 5 departments, the School of Liberal and Performing Arts, which has 5 departments, the School of Social Sciences with 3 departments, the School of Psychology with 2 departments, and the School of Women and Gender Studies. It's a large college, a great college, and a college worth celebrating. Please join me to welcome the Principal, College of Humanities and Social Sciences, Professor Helen Nambalirwa Kabala.
Thank you so much, Rita. All protocol observed. I want to start by assuring you, Rita, that at the college we give birth, and the School of Women and Gender Studies grew up and got married. It is now an institute. So we haven't lost a child, but we gave away a child to thrive. So it's not necessarily under the college anymore, but it is a child of the college, and we are very proud of that. Friends, when I was coming, I was wondering whether I should greet again, and I was reminded of a childhood story. My father would go and cross the road, and when he comes back, we had to greet. So at one point, it disturbed me. And I told him, but we just greeted you, and you only crossed the road. And he said, but I could have died in that process. So I remembered that I could have slipped on the stairs and maybe not had the opportunity to come back to greet you. So allow me in that spirit of how I was nurtured to greet you again. A very good morning, friends. Our dear Vice Chancellor, here represented by our dear Deputy Vice Chancellor Academic Affairs, Professor Mukadasi Boyenza. I know that we have had a conversation, and indeed, no doubt, the event that started yesterday, which we have graciously hosted on your behalf, squarely falls in your docket as Deputy Vice Chancellor, Academic Affairs, but more so as Academic Registrar, because you are the reason we are here. If you had not admitted them, I'm very sure we wouldn't be here. It's at that point that I would like to request that we thank the Academic Registrar for always supporting us as the College of Humanities and Social Sciences. I now was here earlier, but I'll keep myself to 3 critical things. Mr. Vice Chancellor, sir, in this room are our critical, we don't want to call them ancestors, but our mentors. May I request professors who have always been with us, who nurtured us, and even when they moved to different universities and engagements, they have kept with us. I know I've seen Professor Mangeni. I know I've seen Professor Wamala. Please, professors in that category, please stand up and we celebrate you. Thank you very much. And I think I saw Professor Jervas also. Mr. Vice Chancellor, the reason I ask them to stand is not out of disrespect, but it is to show you that at the College of Humanities and Social Sciences, we never say goodbye. And they have been very gracious to us to continue mentoring and nurturing us, even after moving on. We really want to thank them and celebrate them. I also, thank you, please do, they deserve it. I also want to thank all supervisors in the room. Please stand up and celebrate you. All supervisors of our graduate students, wherever you are, not only local, also international. Vice Chancellor, sir, that's the engine of this college. Wherever they are, they have been very gracious to nurture our graduate students to what you will hear later today and also follow. So we really want to thank you for your commitment, and we want to really celebrate you because it is through you that the college has intentionally continued to strengthen graduate training and also to build the future of tomorrow. Thank you very much. And to our dear graduate students, please stand up wherever you are, and we celebrate you. You are the reason for the season. Sir, what you're seeing is a fraction of some of our graduate students who are very committed. You will see from all your books, feel free to sit, that in CHUSS, our graduate students finish on time because they are very, very committed. So all the faces that you see today will come up again in the near future for you to graduate them in January. So we really want to thank you and we celebrate you. Friends, without our dear funders, I know we wouldn't be here. But as I celebrate the funder, allow me celebrate the coordination team, and I'll ask them to stand up. Duncan and Esther, I don't see you, all members. I know that there are many. Yes, thank you very much. Thank you very much. Friends, our colleagues have had sleepless nights, not because they are building up their farms, but because they are building for the future. We really want to thank you for building for the future tirelessly, and we don't take it for granted. We really celebrate you as we celebrate those who have mentored you. You mentioned Professor Dipio, and I know many other professors have mentored us here. Thank you very much, and please, let's keep it going. As the college, we are very intentional about ensuring that our graduate students thrive. So I can only stand here to continue committing on behalf of the entire management team at the college that we shall continue to support you, because it is through you that this university will realize its dream of becoming a research-led university. So we shall continue to give you all the support that you need, and we shall always be present when you need us. Friends, allow me thank our MCs and all our supporting teams, our communications, and all administrators and support staff who have worked tirelessly. There is a name, Amati, I think everyone knows it. If you want something to be quick at a conference, just mention that name and it will be there. We celebrate you, Amati, and all your colleagues and all friends. I take this opportunity to also thank the university management for the continued support that you give to us. And we really want to commit again that we are very intentional towards ensuring that you realize the strategic direction. And as a college, we are committed. We give you our assurance that we shall continue. Before Professor Chiguli left, she mentioned about patenting that word. I'm very intentional about not pronouncing it until it's patented. So I think as a college, we shall take keen interest and request you as a Department of Literature to initiate, because the university has a clear policy on patenting. We can do our inquiry. If it is something that is to be patented, we shall definitely carry through the process. With all the support that you need, we shall offer it so that we can realize that dream. There is absolutely the way we can celebrate our excellent mind that just transitions recently, other than fulfilling just a quarter of what his dreams could have been. So we shall commit to that. So as I go down, I really want to thank each and every one of you and wish you a very fruitful 2 days. I know that yesterday, may I see the facilitators from yesterday? Dr. Amon, Professor Musila, I think Isaac, I saw, Zaidi. Can you all stand up and we celebrate you? Because those right shops, go a long way into ensuring that we realize timely production of excellent work. All the work that comes out of CHUSS is excellent, not because that we are excellent only, but we are the mine of excellent minds. So we shall continue mining, and thank you for mining with us. And we commit to continue doing that. At this point, allow me invite our dear Vice Chancellor, here represented by our dear Deputy Vice Chancellor, Academic Affairs and Academic Registrar, Professor Mukadasi Boyinza, to address us. Thank you very much.
Dear keynote speaker, Professor Grace Musira, the principal of the college, my colleagues in university administration, our valued partners, students, and faculty here present, good morning to you all. I read the disappointment that you had expected the Vice Chancellor, but is not here. I'm also doubly betrayed by my height and size. Nonetheless, I'm here. It gives me great joy to preside over the opening of this very important symposium, a convention that brings together mentors, scholars, and students under one roof to discuss an important issue to do with the graduate training. I know for sure that Makerere has moved on and strategically taken the decision and direction of a research-led, research-intensive university. This means that between the traditional core mandate of teaching and learning, we aim to achieve and also to create an arena in which Makerere becomes a thought leader. And this will mean that we need to support graduate training, given the fact that graduate students are the bedrock of research in any institution. I'm glad that this college, the College of Humanities, has taken this seriously and has created spaces, including this one, to share the work and commitment and also evidence that you really align yourself, your vision and mission to the university's research agenda. As management, we are extremely happy to see that you are contributing to the human resource training of this country, and we believe that you are also contributing to the knowledge economy in general. We know for sure that for Africa to develop and pull all its citizens out of poverty, it is important that we increase on the number of PhD graduates each year. The number as we speak today is still small, and it has been said variously that as where we are, we needed to train about 1 million PhDs in the next 10 years. If we are to do that, remember today, the whole national PhD production is only about 200 PhDs. So if we are to move from the 200 and reach the target of 1 million, that means we need really to our effort to see that we can produce annually about 1,000 PhDs. Of course, This means that there is a lot of more concerted effort needed on the part of management, faculty, and yourselves, the students, to reach that, realize that dream. Additionally, we need to address the issue of completion rate. I know for sure that this has been an unresolved concern on our table. The completion rates are poor. The throughput is very miserable, that we are admitting many, but few come out of the system and the pipeline at the planned time. This symposium, therefore, is timely, it is important, and the skills that you have gained here are quite important in realizing that collective dream that we aspire to achieve, all of us. We can only hope for the best, and we see that CHUSS, its leadership, and the entire research community is committed to this. I'm reliably informed that it has been said here actually that your mantra today is CHUSS. The what? The mind of what? Excellent minds. Okay. If that is the mantra you've chosen, then we really need to mine from CHUSS. We need to mine those excellent minds from CHUSS. This shows that the variable human resource in the college should be determined to achieve the very best, to achieve, of course, to sustain Makerere as the premier and top university in this country, in the region, and globally. Harnessing the skills and knowledge of graduate students during gatherings of this nature is very important. I want to applaud you. It is a foundation on which we can build and produce the cream of the nation, and I truly believe that with excellent leadership in the college, of course, there is a lot that you can achieve together, okay? And I believe you should do this for and with the graduate students. That's when you'll achieve your vision, Madam Principal. I implore the college management and the entire academic community for really the renewed commitment and interest. Lately, I'm seeing a lot of academic productivity coming out of the college. That shows you that you have really regained your rightful position as the Supreme College in the university. I know for sure that as mentors, we have a duty to sustain engagement with the students if we are to harvest the required critical mass that is knowledgeable and also beautifully equipped with the skills that we require of the day. It's not about PhD production. No. One would say, the way we see it, it appears that the supply is even is outstripping the demand for the PhD. But I will tell you, beyond that, it's about quality. Okay, there shouldn't be a problem about the supply of the PhDs, but the quality. Makerere is not a PhD factory. No, I don't want to say that. As a DVC Academic Affairs, I really be the first to raise the flag if I see a college that is, is turning into a factory. To throw them out. No, we want to see that the people that come out have got the relevant skills to impact and transform society. The project, I know for sure that this project shows your vision of producing a vibrant research community, and the activity you've chosen is very important because I know for sure that if we are to talk about research, then the students, of course, are the drivers of this agenda. I know that there are quite a number of development partners that have joined and also supported your efforts. I've been informed that, for example, you had had, when I look at Edgar, I remember Gerda Henken and Andrew Meron, I know that Norohead is around. I know CEDA supported some of you at one level. And of course, there are also quite a number. Even Italy has come in, government of Italy has come in. Now we have our own, the government of the Republic of Uganda through the Research and Innovation Fund. All of these are valuable funding streams that are enabling us really to continue supporting our graduate training at this university. Each of these partners, of course, plays an important role in the graduate study fabric of this university. We are grateful for, of course, all the partners and government for their support, particularly for this cohort. I don't know how many, principal, how many PhDs, active PhDs are registered now in CHUSS? Could it be about 300? Okay. If you've got a PhD student population of about 300, I will tell you that then it means that when we look at the PhD demand in this country, if we, for example, we send out 300, and the PhD demand in Uganda today is about 800 PhDs annually. So if CHUSS was to churn out 300, then it means the rest of the country is only left with only what? 500, the deficit of 500. Therefore, we have a big role to play as an entity. Of course, I want to thank the coordinators of this project for the awesome work that you are doing, of course, to enforce the best practices in both teaching and research. I'm grateful to the faculty. You have been already commended for the tireless effort in building that solid foundation and keeping the academy vibrant. That is very important. That is very important. Okay? PhD training, graduate training is a function of three things: the quality and commitment of the student, the enabling environment and policy which we're doing, and then the faculty, okay, that drive the agenda in the course of supervision and mentorship. Therefore, to our students, we want to thank you for the good work you are doing, but also want to encourage you to expedite the process, the remaining processes. If you are starting, it's a good start. If you are middle way, we say please continue and move faster. I would like, of course, to close my remarks on an important thought. Research is unimportant unless it is relevant. You get what I mean? Research is unimportant unless it is what? Relevant. So, if you are a PhD student and you do research to please your funder, your employer, but then you really know that even the results you are likely to get will not be relevant, will not transform society, will not impact anybody, then that one is a waste of resources. Therefore, there is a need for our commitment, of course, to continue nurturing impactful research, visionary and transformative studies that will really lead to transformation of the livelihood and lives of many of our community. To all our graduate students, make sure that your research is relevant to your community, make sure that you play your part. We shall do ours. Always remember that humanities and social sciences are the soul of our nation. Therefore, be the soul of this nation as humanities and social science scholars. I know for sure that when I read around, I know for sure that this workshop has been funded by Lisa. Okay? Is it so? Uh-huh. Therefore, you know, it is coming to support PhD fellows in Uganda and the other Pangea affiliated institutions. That means it's targeting most likely Cameroon, Malawi, and Kenya, Tanzania, and even Stellenbosch, South Africa. Therefore, we have a moral duty not to put valuable resources to waste. We have to do our bit. The students, you need to do your part, and then we finish this engagement on time. You know, knowledge is like a garden. If you don't cultivate, you don't harvest, isn't it? So if you people don't really show commitment, then it means we shall not be able to get the expected result. We continue to build a supportive, enabling, harmonious environment for you to do your work. Therefore, we expect you to be available and do your work. Therefore, colleagues of mine, with these few words, I would like to declare the CHUSS Convention Symposium 2025 open as we build the future.
Yes, the conference is open. We are very happy. We are a lively audience. Chusoye? Wow. Yes. Thank you very much, Professor Winza Mukadas. And he's also served as the director, School of Graduate Studies. So if we are here at Makerere University for the Graduate Symposium, he's a very effective representative. He understands matters of graduate training, academics, name it. Thank you very much. Permit me to request the principal of CHUSS to also join the Vice Chancellor here. There is a seat. And as the principal joins the Vice Chancellor, may I humbly request also the following people to move to the stage so that we save time. Our keynote speaker, Professor Grace Musila, kindly come up. I think you'll help me stand here for a start. The facilitators of yesterday's writing workshop, that is Dr. Peter Wekesa, Dr. Amon Ashaba Mwine, and Dr. Isaac Tibasima. So what is going to happen is at Makerere University we have a special way of saying thank you, and you recall that the principal of the College of Humanities and Social Sciences said we never say goodbye. So we have a beautiful set of Makerere University souvenirs and also CHUSS souvenirs and some books that will be presented by the principal will manage this together with the Vice Chancellor. So that is Professor Grace Musila. Yes, always feel at Makerere University. Yes, the next is Dr. Peter Wekesa. He was one of our facilitators during the writing workshop. Professor Grace, we still need you this side. Kindly return. Please don't leave. You could stand here. Dr. Amon Ashaba Mwine, facilitator. Please feel at Makerere University and CHUSS. Then we also have Dr. Isaac Tibasima. So next is this team earns a photo very fast. Yes, please, with the principal. Kindly come for a photo. Yes, we are going to stand. They are smiling on behalf of the College of Humanities and Social Sciences. And they are being requested that they remain standing, and the rest of us, you please move to the stage and we for the final group photo. Kindly move to the podium for the final group photo. I be assisted to have there are some chairs behind. I need someone to help me with just some chairs. Yes. Members, there's a suggestion from, just leave it, there's a suggestion from the VC that let's go outside and have a better photo. Please kindly bear with us. Let's go. We are a happy family. Let's go outside. And thank you very much, Professor Windsor, for guiding us. Yes. Dear participants, we are a very happy and large family. Let's get outside of the main hall for a group photo. So members, we are heading outside of the main hall. No. Let's do it quite fast so that we return. Let's do it quite fast, then we will return. We are a happy family. Thank you for attending in such great numbers. And we still continue. Members, kindly get out. We would like to close the door so that you don't lose any of your items. The ushering team, please be alert. No one should pick members who have remained, please, the watchmen and watchwomen, we shouldn't lose any of these gadgets.
Welcome back, people. Please, when you're going for tea, kindly move with your bags and your mobile phones. Carry your bag, your mobile phone. We are going to have tea for only 15 minutes. Yes. Can we please pick our bags, mobile phones, and go for tea and the snacks? 15 minutes. Yes. 1-5. You're the ones who enjoyed the speakers, so what do we do? Lillian, tea is getting finished. Take Prof for tea. But please go with your laptops. One. Hello. Apologies for making this communication as you're taking tea, but in the interest of time, I'd like to make a few announcements. From here, we are breaking out into different sessions. 1A will be in the main hall. 1B will be seminar room 1, the one upstairs on the next floor. 1C will still be seminar room 2, right opposite seminar room 1 on the other side, upstairs. And then 1D will be the CHUSS Smart Room at the College of Humanities. For the chairs, we are kindly begging, we are only giving you 1 hour per session. So please, those who are starting with session 1, take strictly 1 hour. And then we will move into the second session. We will all converge back here at 2 o'clock for lunch. Esther, twagala mmere kusawa 8. So we are having tea giving us up to 12 o'clock. By 12, the tea should be done and we should all be in our sessions. I hope the chairs are all present. Thank you. I'm back. Please, if you left a laptop or mobile phone in the main hall, kindly stand up, pick it, and have it with you. Please, for your own safety. Please pick your gadgets from the main hall. Session 1 is in the main hall. 1A and 2A will be in the main hall. 2B and 1B will be in seminar room 1 on the next floor. And 2C and 1C will be in seminar room 2, still up on the next floor. And then 1D and 2D will be at the CHUSS Smart Room. That could be yours. Ladies and gentlemen, I have been informed that some people still don't know where to go. I want to repeat for the last time. Session 1A and Session 1A and 2A will be in the main hall. Session 1B and 2B will be in Seminar Room 1 on the next floor in this building. Session 1C and Session 2C will be in Seminar Room 2, opposite Seminar Room, just on the next floor in this building. And Session 1D and 2D will be in the CHUSS Smart Room at the college. Now, those that are not going to present, can you kindly fill those rooms to listen to those of us who are going to present? We need critique, we need support, we need advice, we need encouragement. Thank you very much. Enjoy the tea. You have about 14 minutes to get your places.
Hello. Session 1A, we are about to start. So if the presenters are here, please kindly come up so that we can start. Do we have Nicholas? Please, can you come? Yeah. I know Mr. Mukasa is not here. Do we have Josephine? Josephine? Please come. Well done. I hope you will get some audience in this session. Please, don't leave us. Don't run away. If you run away, I'm going to hijack Professor Isaac to be with us in this session. Before we start, as quick reminder, our presenters have their abstract in the book of abstracts, page 82, and where is it, Josephine? Josephine, I can't find your abstract page. And 57, yes, page 57 for Josephine's abstract, and page 82 Nicholas. Mr. Nicholas will be presenting on the topic on the neoliberal agrarian reforms, agrarian capitalism, and the peasantry in Kenya. The title is slightly different, modified in what you see in the abstract. Madam Josephine will also be taking us through her title on likely achievers, right? Exploring resilience and positive dividends in educational outcomes among pastoral agrarian adolescents in Uganda's Karamoja region. So our presenters, you have 15 minutes to present, but what I will do, I will set 10 minutes, so when you hear my alarm, it means you have 5 minutes left to wrap up. Don't eat into the time. Though Joseph was supposed to be here to present, but he's absent. That does not mean that we will eat into his time. It is his time. So I'll invite Mr. Nicholas to take us through his presentation in 5 minutes. Do you want to project? Okay, then the podium is yours.
Thank you. Thank you very much. So the topic of my presentation is neoliberal agrarian reforms, agrarian capitalism, and the peasantry. This is part of my ongoing PhD research project, and so this part of the work is basically comes out as a part of the chapter in my thesis. And so, just to give you some context, the question of the survival of the peasantry, the making of the modern world has been part of an enduring controversy among debates which emerged in Europe at the end of the 19th century and subsequently became also a major issue for countries that were decolonizing after the Second World War. What do we do with a rural population that is a majority and a major political force in our countries? Because the major concern was here that based on Europe's experience with industrialization, which had basically wiped out the peasantry, what is the significance of this population in those countries that had recently decolonized? Now, this question has become much more important today under neoliberalism because of a variety of factors. And one of them specifically is the fact that we have observed a resurgence of struggles in rural areas across Africa, struggles primarily centered around land, which is a major source of livelihoods, as a result of a failed industrial transition, okay? Most countries have failed to absorb the rising numbers of the rural populations unemployed as a result of urban exodus. And so there's been an increase in land pressures across rural areas in Africa. And across Africa, specifically in Kenya, in our particular focus, most households are scrambling for land for their basic sustenance. And they're basically diversifying into off-farm activities in various ways. Okay? And so neoliberal structural adjustment programs, remember, were premised on the idea that rural development was the key to modernizing African societies. Unfortunately, after 3 decades of adjustment programs, what we have seen is that hunger, malnutrition, poverty, and increased social conflict and struggles have increased, and inequalities have deepened in African society. So my problem here is that there are empirical evidence on the responses of the peasantry to these neoliberal structural adjustment programs are largely limited and inconclusive. Those who have tried to focus on this particular problem have come to different conclusions based on how you read the particular data that you have collected. And this debate was made important, a significant debate in the 1980s called the Kenya debate, where the major question was that with the arrival of independence, would the peasantry out through industrialization, or would it persist as a result of several factors, which were the focus of debates, okay? And one of the significant aspects of that debate was class differentiation, which emerges from the debates among Marxists and Leninists in the late 19th century and the decolonization period. But under contemporary globalization, class differentiation has become a major issue. So the purpose of this chapter is to attempt to analyze the extent of capitalist growth and the policy and institutional context of neoliberal reforms and its impact on the peasantry, okay? And the significance of this is that class analysis has been for a long time, especially since the 1980s, because of the fact that it overwhelmingly deals with a fundamental facet of contemporary life, and that is the distribution of resources. And we know very well that the distribution of resources is a major factor in determining the power relations in rural society and between rural and urban societies, okay? This particular chapter relied largely on published statistics and academic literature on the land and agrarian questions in Kenya. And to flesh out my argument, or to suggest the unfolding logic of my argument, I have organized it into 3 sections. One is I discuss the pre-reform period and the post-reform period to assess some of the changes which the neoliberal agrarian reforms have brought. And then the second section looks at changes in land reforms, okay, and the institutional responses to some of these land reforms and how those land issues have been in keeping with the wider macroeconomic policy changes. Then the third part, where now I marshal empirical evidence, okay, to show how declining trends in agricultural production and productivity and changes in livelihood patterns as a result of the negative effects of neoliberal adjustment programs, okay? And the findings of this particular study show that after 3 decades of implementing structural adjustment programs, liberal agrarian restructuring has not adequately addressed the colonial and early post-independence legacies of unequal land distribution and poverty. What has happened instead is that neoliberal reform programs have actually consolidated mass unemployment and poverty as a result of the deepening super exploitation of various forces, both internal and external in Kenya. Okay? So neoliberal agrarian have failed in the context of what I talked about, a failed industrial transition and economic stagnation. So that what we are witnessing is a term which scholars have referred to as a process of generalized semi-proletarianization. And this refers to a majority of people making a living off the land and off farm for basic survival. So what is happening that as opposed to the industrial transition experience in Europe, what is happening right now in the rural countrysides in Kenya is that most rural households do not have an alternative for a decent living or a decent wage. And this has had tremendous impact on rural politics. And one of them is that rather than an open confrontation against the state and external forces making households poor, most of these households have turned to welfare projects or what are called self-help activities rather than confrontational politics in the manner of peasant wars or peasant rule rebellions like we saw in the historic transitions in Europe or in Latin America or Asia. So what happens is that